The grand chamber floated in the void of space, a massive ring of crystalline metal that orbited the golden world below. Inside, thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered in their designated sections. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had bodies that defied simple description. They all came together for one purpose: to decide the fate of humanity. Commander Doyen Park stood in the center of the chamber, alone. His dark blue uniform looked plain compared to the elaborate garments and natural displays of the alien delegates around him. Next to him, Dr. Yoonji Choi adjusted her glasses nervously, her tablet clutched tight in her hands. She was the only other human allowed in the chamber. High Arbiter Velmoth rose from his throne. The ancient being's body shimmered like living water, constantly shifting between solid and liquid states. His voice echoed through the chamber without need for speakers, carried by some technology humanity had yet to understand. "We gather to address the human question," Velmoth announced. "In 30 cycles, this species has spread across 47 star systems. No species in our recorded history has expanded so rapidly. The evidence will now be presented." Holographic displays filled the air above them. Images of human colonies bloomed across the darkness. Ships by the thousands moving between stars, factories being built on virgin worlds, cities rising from empty plains. Ambassador Krenos clicked forward on 6 legs, his insectoid body reflecting the chamber's lights. "They consume resources at an alarming rate," he stated. 3 colony worlds have been stripped of 70% of their minerals in less than 10 cycles. They reproduce faster than any mammalian species we have documented. Their population doubles every 20 cycles. Doyen stepped forward. "We only settle uninhabited worlds. We follow every council regulation about silence." Velmoth's command rippled through the chamber. "You will speak when permitted, human." Dr. Yoonji touched Doyun's arm gently. Her message was clear: don't make it worse. Another delegate spoke, this one a floating sphere of gas held together by electromagnetic fields. "Their military expansion concerns us most. Every colony has defensive fleets. Every human carries weapons training. They speak of peace but prepare for war." "Because we learned the hard way," Doyen said quietly, unable to stop himself. "Before we reached the stars, we fought ourselves. We almost destroyed our own world. We built weapons because we were afraid of each other. When we finally united, we swore never to be helpless again." Counselor Thane, the synthetic representative, projected a calm voice. "Your honesty reveals the problem, Commander Park. You are a species defined by conflict. Even your unity came through violence. The galaxy has enjoyed peace for 10,000 cycles. Your presence disrupts that peace." The evidence continued. Human scientists pushing boundaries of physics the Council had declared too dangerous to explore. Human traders negotiating with species outside Council space. Human explorers mapping regions considered forbidden. Every achievement humanity was proud of became a crime in this chamber. Hours passed. Doyen's legs ached from standing, but no seat was offered. Dr. Yoonji's face had gone pale, her hope fading with each presentation. Finally, Velmoth spoke again. "The Council has reviewed the evidence. The ancient laws are clear. Species that expand without restraint become dangers to galactic stability. We have seen this pattern before in ages past. Those who ignore the warnings bring catastrophe." Doyen felt his heart sink. "You're going to exile us." "The vote will decide," Velmoth said. "All in favor of the Edict of Severance?" The chamber filled with light. Thousands of indicators glowed in affirmation. Doyen watched the count rise on the central display. 2,000. 3,000. The number climbed until it reached 2,847 species voting for exile. Those opposed? Only 3 lights appeared. 3 species out of nearly 3,000. Doyen didn't even know which ones they were. "The Edict of Severance is approved," Velmoth declared. "Humanity will abandon all colonies beyond their home system within 100 galactic standard days. All human ships, technology, and assets outside the Sol system are forfeit to the Council. Any human found beyond Sol after the deadline will be destroyed. A blockade will ensure compliance." Dr. Yoonji grabbed Doyen's hand. He could feel her shaking. Doyun stepped forward, his voice carrying across the chamber even without technological amplification. "You're making a mistake. We came to you in friendship. We followed your laws, joined your community, shared our discoveries, and you repay us with exile? Your species is dangerous," Velmoth replied. "This decision protects the galaxy." "Protects you from what?" Doyen's voice rose. From competition? From new ideas? You sit here in your perfect peace, so comfortable in your stagnation that anything different terrifies you. We pushed boundaries because that's what intelligent beings do. We explored because curiosity is not a crime. We grew because life expands. That's not a threat, that's nature. Your nature is the threat, Krenos clicked. You cannot help what you are. This is mercy, human. We could have voted for extermination. Doyen looked around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces. Some looked smug. Others looked apologetic. A few seemed afraid, though he couldn't understand why they would fear humanity when they held all the power. Then we accept your mercy, Doyen said coldly. We will leave your council space. We will take our dangerous ideas, our rapid expansion, our military preparations, and we will go. But remember this day. Remember that you had the chance to have humanity as friends. Whatever comes next, you chose it. Empty threats from a broken species, Velmoth dismissed. Guards, escort them out. As the alien guards moved to take them away, Dr. Yunji suddenly grabbed Doyen's arm tighter. She was looking at her tablet, her eyes wide. Commander, I'm receiving a message, encrypted, source unknown. What does it say? Doyen whispered as they were led toward the exit. Yunji's voice trembled as she read. They fear you because you remind them of what they've forgotten. The void remembers. Survive, and you will inherit everything. Doyen looked back at the council chamber one last time. The delegates were already moving on to other business, dismissing humanity as if they had never mattered. But that message suggested something else entirely. Someone out there knew more than they were saying. The chamber doors sealed behind them with a sound of finality. Outside, the galaxy stretched in all directions, beautiful and cold. Soon none of it would be theirs. 100 days to pack up everything humanity had built among the stars. 100 days before the blockade would shoot down any human ship that dared to leave Earth. But that mysterious message burned in Doyen's mind. The void. He knew what it was, the empty darkness between galaxies where no sane species ventured. Space itself broke down there. Reality became unstable. It was considered a death sentence. Yet someone thought humanity should go there. Someone believed they could survive it. As their transport carried them away from the council station, Doyen made a decision. If the galaxy wouldn't let humanity live among the stars, then humanity would find somewhere else. Somewhere the council couldn't follow, somewhere in the darkness the void was calling, and Doyen was ready to answer. Captain Ji-won Kim watched through the viewport as another transport ship entered Mars orbit. It was the 47th one today. Each vessel carried thousands of refugees from the outer colonies, people forced to abandon the homes they had built with their own hands. The orbital stations were packed beyond capacity. People slept in corridors, in cargo bays, anywhere they could find space. 73 days remained before the Council's deadline. 73 days before the blockade would destroy any human ship that tried to leave Sol system. How many more incoming? Ji-won asked her first officer. 612 transports still en route from the colonies, he replied. And the Council ships are already in position. They're not waiting for the deadline to enforce the blockade. Ji-won clenched her fists. The Council Armada formed a sphere around the Sol system. Massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a planet. Any human ship that approached the boundary was turned back. Several that refused had simply vanished in bursts of energy. On Mars, Governor Mira Bayek was refusing to evacuate. Ji-won had received her message that morning. I built this colony with my own hands. I watched the first dome rise from the red sand. I will not abandon it because some ancient aliens are afraid of us. But Governor Beck didn't see what Ji-won saw from orbit. The Council wasn't just enforcing a blockade. They were preparing for something worse. Those ships carried weapons that could sterilize worlds. Admiral Hyunwoo Shin's face appeared on Ji-won's screen. The old man looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Captain Kim, report to Earth immediately. Emergency summit. Every ship commander, every governor, every scientist who might have an answer. We meet in 6 hours. The summit took place in what remained of the United Nations building. The room was packed with desperate faces. Ji-won recognized most of them. These were the people who had pushed humanity to the stars, who had built colonies and fleets and dreams of a future among the galaxies. Admiral Hyunwoo stood at the front, his uniform wrinkled and stained with coffee. Next to him stood a thin man with wild hair and tired eyes. Dr. Taeyang Lee, one of Earth's top quantum physicists. We have a choice to make, Hyunwoo began. We can stay here, accept the exile and hope the council leaves us alone. Or we can do something desperate. Desperate is understating it, Governor Mira said through the video link. She had finally agreed to attend remotely. You want to fly into the void? That's suicide, Admiral. Dr. Taeyang stepped forward, activating a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with a dark region beyond its rim. The void isn't completely empty, he said. My team has been studying anomalies for 5 years. There are stable structures in the darkness. Wormholes, possibly. Tiers in space-time that lead somewhere. Somewhere might be nowhere, another governor argued. The void breaks down matter itself. Every probe we've sent there has been crushed or torn apart. Every council probe, Taeyang corrected. But we've never tried with our own technology. And there's something else. He changed the display, showing strange readings. These anomalies pulse with energy, almost like they're alive, or artificial. I think someone built something out there. The room erupted in argument. Some called it madness. Others saw it as their only hope. Chi-Wan listened to them all, her mind racing. A young woman stood up from the back. Yunisong, an engineer barely 25 years old. I can do it, she said quietly. The room fell silent. I can build engines that survive the void, Yuna continued, her voice gaining strength. I've been working on the theory for 2 years. Standard drives try to fight the void's conditions. We need drives that adapt to them. Engines that bend with the distortions instead of breaking against them. That's theoretical at best, an older scientist scoffed. Everything was theoretical once, Yuna shot back. Faster-than-light travel was impossible until we did it. Terraforming was fantasy until we built Mars. The Council says the void is death because they're afraid. But we've never been afraid of the unknown. Admiral Hyunwoo looked at her with something like hope. How long would you need? To build one prototype a week? To retrofit our entire fleet? Yuna hesitated. We have 73 days. I'd need every shipyard, every engineer, every resource we have. And even then, I can only promise a chance. Not certainty. The debate raged for hours. Ji-won sat through it all, watching people struggle with an impossible choice. Stay and face slow extinction under council watch, or flee into darkness that might kill them faster. Finally, the vote was called. It wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would not beg for mercy. They would not surrender their future. They would run into the darkness and hope to find light on the other side. Operation Exodus began immediately. Every orbital station became a construction platform. Asteroids were hollowed out and turned into generation ships. Ancient designs for colony vessels were pulled from archives and updated with Yuna's new engines. The ships wouldn't be beautiful. They wouldn't be comfortable. But they would carry humanity into the unknown. Ji-won was given command of the lead vessel, the Indomitable. It was a massive beast built from 3 orbital stations welded together. Yuna's prototype engines glowed with an eerie purple light, powered by exotic matter humanity barely understood. Earth's population swelled as refugees continued to arrive. 19 billion people now crowded onto the homeworld and its colonies. Resources ran thin, riots broke out in some cities. But still, the construction continued. Governor Mira finally evacuated Mars, but she came with a demand. I want to lead one of the colony ships. If we're doing this insane thing, I want to make sure we rebuild on the other side. Admiral Hyunwoo gave her command of the Hope, a vessel carrying 20,000 souls. 10 days remained when the Council made their move. A transmission arrived from High Arbiter Velmoth himself. We detect unusual construction in your system. You will cease immediately. Any attempt to flee will be considered an act of war. Accept your exile with dignity. Hyunwoo sent a simple reply. Dignity is choosing our own fate. You wanted us gone from your galaxy. We're leaving, just not the way you expected. The last days were chaos. Families were separated as ships filled to capacity. Some chose to stay, believing Earth would be safe. Others fought desperately for any spot on the fleeing vessels. Ji-won walked through the Indomitable's corridors, seeing fear and determination in equal measure on every face. Dr. Taeyang spent the final hours triple-checking calculations. The first wormhole is here, he showed Ji-won on the star charts. If Yuna's engines work, we can reach it. What's on the other side? I have no idea. The day came. 11 days before the Council's deadline, humanity launched not in surrender but in defiance. 3,000 ships of every size and design rose from Earth and Mars. Ji-won stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching them form up. The Council Armada moved to intercept. Admiral Hyunwoo took what remained of Earth's defensive fleet straight at them. Jiwon watched the battle unfold on her screens. Human ships were no match for Council dreadnoughts. They knew it. Everyone knew it. But Hyunwoo wasn't trying to win. He was trying to buy time. All ships maximum acceleration, Jiwon ordered. Head for the void, the fleet ran. Behind them, Hyunwoo's ships fought and died. His final transmission crackled through. We chose freedom over chains. If we die as ourselves. The void calls and we answer. Then his signal vanished. The Council Armada had broken through, but they were too late. The human fleet had reached the boundary. Jiwon watched the void approach on her screens. It looked like a wall of absolute darkness, a place where stars feared to shine. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist at its edges. All ships activate void engines, she commanded. The Indomitable's engines roared to life. Purple energy wrapped around the hull. The darkness rushed forward to meet them. Jiwon felt the ship shudder as they crossed the boundary. Physics screamed. Her instruments went mad. The stars behind them vanished. They were in the void. As the last ship crossed over, Jiwon looked back. Just once. Earth was gone, hidden behind the wall of darkness. The Council fleet had stopped at the boundary, unwilling to follow. And beyond them, she saw lights. Weapons fire. Orbital bombardment. The Council was destroying what humanity left behind. Captain Seojin Kang had never seen Earth. He was born in the void, in the dark years when humanity fled through impossible space. Now, at 32 years old, he commanded a fleet of ships that looked nothing like the ones his ancestors had fled in. They were beautiful and terrible, made of metal that seemed to breathe an energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Time in the void was strange. His grandmother said they had been running for 20 years. Dr. Taeyang's instrument said 200. The truth was probably somewhere in between or nowhere at all. Time bent in the darkness like everything else. Seojin stood on the bridge of the Void Runner, watching his crew work. Half of them had been born here like him. They could see things others couldn't. Dimensions that normal humans missed. Patterns in the chaos that made sense only to void-born eyes. Captain, sensors detect another derelict ahead, his navigator called out. It was Hana Yu, chief engineer and the smartest person Seojin knew. Looks big. Really big. They had found many dead ships in the void. Ancient vessels from civilizations that died long before humans even existed. The first discovery had been terrifying. Now it was almost routine, this one was different. As they approached, Seojin felt something he had learned to trust. An instinct that came from being void-born. The ship mattered, it was enormous. 10 times the size of their largest vessel. Made of materials that instruments couldn't identify. The hull seemed to shift colors even though there was no light to reflect. Life signs? Seojin asked. Negative. But there's power. Faint, but it's there. This thing has been running on standby for... Hana checked her readings. Millions of years. Maybe billions. Elder Junho Nam shuffled onto the bridge. He was 93 years old. One of the last people alive who actually remembered Earth. I know this design, he said quietly. I've seen it in the other derelicts. These are architect ships. The architects. Humanity had found references to them in a dozen dead vessels. An ancient race that built the void pathways. No one knew what happened to them, but their technology made the councils look like children's toys. Prepare a boarding team, Seojin ordered. I'm going with them, Hana argued as she always did. But Seojin was decided. He had that feeling again. The void was showing them something important. The boarding team crossed through empty space. Void-born humans could survive brief exposure to the raw void. Their bodies had adapted in ways Dr. Taeyang said should be impossible. Seojin felt the darkness press against his suit, almost welcoming. Inside the derelict, lights flickered to life as they entered, as if the ship recognized that someone was finally home. They found the archive 3 levels down. A vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with data. When Seojin touched one, information flooded his mind. Not in words, but in pure understanding. The architects had built the council. Not naturally. They created it as a prison to keep younger races contained, while the architects explored the multiverse. They wanted to keep the galaxy weak so no other race would follow them into the higher dimensions. But something went wrong. The architects grew arrogant. They pushed too far, too fast. The void wasn't empty. It was alive with things that existed before the universe began. Dark matter entities that moved through dimensions like humans walked through rooms. The architects tried to control them. Instead, the void consumed the architects entirely. Their final warning echoed in Seogen's mind. We became lords of reality, but the void is where gods are born and die. Master it, or it masters you. Seogen pulled his hand back, gasping. His team stared at him with concern. Download everything, he ordered. Every bit of data this ship has. We need to understand what they learned. Back on the Void Runner, Seogen called a meeting of all ship captains. They gathered virtually, their faces appearing on screens. Some were old refugees from Earth. Others were void-born like him. All of them needed to hear this. The Council lied to us, Seogen began. They didn't evolve naturally. They were designed to keep species weak. The architects wanted the galaxy to stay primitive while they explored beyond reality itself. Governor Mira, now old and gray but still fierce, leaned forward. Why would they do that? Because strong species attract attention, Seogen replied. The void isn't empty. There are entities here. Ancient things that exist in the spaces between dimensions. The architects thought they could use them. Instead, they died. Sumin Ryu, the fleet's lead scientist, spoke up. She had been studying void phenomena for years. I've encountered these entities. They're not hostile. They're just different. They exist in dark matter the way we exist in normal matter. I've been trying to communicate with them. That's insanely dangerous, another captain argued. So was fleeing into the void, Sumin countered. But we did it anyway. And I think these entities can help us. They've been watching humanity. They're curious about us. Hana pulled up technical data. We've been adapting architect technology for years. But if we combine it with what Sumin learns from the entities, we could build something new. Ships that run on void energy, weapons that manipulate spacetime, defenses that exist in multiple dimensions at once. You're talking about becoming like the architects, Elder Junho said. They died trying this. No, Seogen corrected. They died trying to control it. We need to work with it. Partner with it. Humans are good at that. We partnered with animals, with machines, with alien species. Why not with the void itself? The debate was long and heated. But void-born humans understood something the elders didn't. They had been changed by this place. The darkness was in their blood now. Fighting it was pointless. They needed to embrace it. The decision was made. Humanity would stop running. They would settle here in the darkness between galaxies. They would build a new home using architect technology and void energy. And they would master this place that destroyed an ancient civilization. The construction took decades. Or maybe it was years. Time remained strange. They built stations that floated in absolute darkness, powered by dark matter reactors that Sumin designed with help from the entities. Ships were rebuilt, combining human engineering with architect designs and void adaptations. The void-born children could now see in 7 dimensions. They could navigate space that broke normal minds. Some could communicate with the dark matter entities directly, forming partnerships that gave humanity access to power beyond physics. Seogen watched it all happen. His hair turned gray. His body aged. But his eyes remained those of a void-born, seeing things others couldn't. One day, Elder Junho came to him. The old man was dying. Age caught everyone eventually, even in the void. I want to see Earth one more time before I die, Junho said, even if it's just a memory. Earth is gone, Seogen replied gently. The Council destroyed it, I know. But we're strong enough now, aren't we? Strong enough to go back. Strong enough to make them pay. Seogen looked out at the fleet. Hundreds of ships that could tear reality apart. Thousands of void-born humans who were more than human now. Technology that made them nearly unstoppable. We could, he admitted. We could return to Council space and destroy everything. Take revenge for what they did to us. But, Hunyo asked, but that's not why we're here. The void didn't make us into monsters. It made us into something new. Something that can survive in places others can't even imagine. The Council feared our expansion. Now we can expand into places they'll never reach. Junho smiled. You're wiser than I was at your age. But wisdom aside, we need to go back eventually. Not for revenge. For survival. The Architect Archives showed us something is coming. Something that made even them afraid. When it arrives, the Council will need us. He was right. Deep in the void, sensors detected movement. Things were stirring in the dark matter. Ancient entities shifting position. Something was approaching from beyond the known dimensions. Seojin made the decision. After all the years in darkness, after all the changes and growth, humanity would return to the galaxy. Not as refugees. Not as the species the Council had exiled. They would return as Lords of the Void. He sent the message across all channels, broadcasting toward Council space. It would take time to reach them, but it would reach them. We were exiled as refugees. We return as something else entirely. The Void has made us its children, and we have not forgotten. High Counselor Velsera stood before the great windows of the Council station, staring at the sensor displays with growing horror. Her grandfather had exiled humanity 250 years ago. The decision had been celebrated as necessary, as wise. Now those celebrations felt like distant memories. Impossible contacts, the reports called them. Ships that appeared on sensors but violated every known law of physics. They materialized from nothing. They moved through space that should be empty. They existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Director Min-seok, explain this, Velsera demanded. Director Min-seok Han, head of Council Intelligence, looked like he hadn't slept in days. His human features were stark and tired. Yes, human. A few humans had remained behind during the exile, choosing Council space over the Void. Their descendants served the Council now, though many species still didn't trust them. The contacts appeared at the Galactic Rim 6 hours ago. Min-seok reported. We sent the 7th Armada to investigate. 2,000 ships, our most powerful fleet, and they lasted 4 minutes. Velsera's form rippled with shock. The Velrathi were beings of living water, and her emotions showed in the waves across her body. How many enemy ships? 12, Min-seok replied quietly. 12 ships destroyed our entire armada. That's not possible. They didn't use weapons. Not conventional ones. They manipulated space-time itself. Some of our ships were frozen in temporal stasis. Others were teleported into nearby stars. Some simply ceased to exist. We don't know how. We don't know why some were spared and others destroyed. But it wasn't random. It was precise, controlled. Velsera pulled up the battle recordings. She watched in silence as Council dreadnoughts fired everything they had at the strange vessels. The weapons simply bent around them. Redirected through dimensions the sensors couldn't track. Then the human ships responded. Reality itself became their weapon. They want to talk, Min-seok said. They've requested an audience with the full Council. Absolutely not. This is clearly an invasion. We need to mobilize every fleet, every weapon. We tried that, Min-seok interrupted. While you were watching the recordings, 300 more human ships appeared in Council space. They're positioned near every major world, every trade route, every military installation. Not attacking, just waiting, demonstrating their reach. Velsera felt her form shimmer with fear. How did we not detect them approaching? Because they didn't approach. They came through the void, through spaces between normal space. They can appear anywhere, anytime. We have no defense against it. The Council chamber filled quickly. Emergency sessions brought delegates from across the galaxy. Fear hung thick in the air. The humans had been gone for 2.5 centuries. Everyone assumed they were dead. The void killed everything that entered it. Apparently, humanity was the exception. The holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. A woman. She looked human but changed. Her eyes glowed with soft starlight. Her skin seemed to shift between solid matter and something else. Something that existed in multiple states at once. She wore robes that were woven from darkness itself. I am Ambassador Nari Im, she said. Her voice was human, but it carried undertones that made reality vibrate. I speak for the Void Lords, for humanity. Velsera stepped forward. You were exiled. You should be dead. You exiled us to die, Nari agreed. The Void should have killed us. Instead, it changed us, made us into something new, something you couldn't imagine in your comfortable light. You attack our fleets without provocation. We demonstrated capability, not hostility. Your armada approached with weapons charged. We defended ourselves. Notice that we left survivors. We could have destroyed them all. We chose mercy. Another delegate shouted, You violate Council space. You appear without permission. This is an act of war. Nari's expression didn't change. You declared us exiled. Exiles have no home, no territory, no space that's forbidden to them. You wanted us gone from your galaxy. We left. Now we return and you claim we're invading? We're not in your space. We're in the Void's space. And the Void is everywhere. Velsera tried to regain control. What do you want? Why return now? To warn you, Nari said simply. The void taught us many things. One of them is that it's not empty. It's full. And what lives there is waking up. Minsuk stepped forward. As a human himself, perhaps he could reach her. Ambassador Nari, please explain. What's in the void? Nari looked at him with something like sadness. You stayed behind when we left. Your ancestors chose the Council's light over the unknown darkness. Do you regret it? I asked you a question, Minsuk replied firmly. The architects, Nari said. You've never heard of them. The Council's founders. They built this entire system to keep species weak, to prevent anyone from becoming strong enough to follow them into higher dimensions. They succeeded too well. The Council became a cage, comfortable, safe, stagnant, lies, Velsera declared. The Council formed naturally over millions of years. Check your oldest archives, Nari suggested. The ones hidden in the deepest vaults. The ones your predecessors classified beyond top secret. You'll find the truth. Minsuk was already accessing restricted files. His face went pale. She's right. There are references. The Great Builders. The First Council. It was designed, structured, made. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded the archives be opened. Others called for Nari's immediate destruction. Nari waited patiently for silence. When it finally came, she continued. The architects fled into the void to escape something. Something they woke up. Something ancient. It exists in dark matter, in the spaces between dimensions. It's not hostile. It's not evil. It simply exists on a level so different from us that its mere presence unravels reality. And you expect us to believe you can stop this thing? Velsera challenged. No, Nari replied. We can't stop it. But we can negotiate with it. Because humanity became the bridge. We exist in normal matter and dark matter. We live in 3 dimensions and 7. We're part of your reality and part of the void. We're the only species that can communicate with what's coming. Why should we trust you? Nari smiled, and it was genuinely human despite everything else that was alien about her. Because you have no choice. Your fleets can't hurt us. Your weapons can't reach us. Your technology is centuries behind what we've become. But we're not here for conquest. We're here because the architects made one correct prediction. When the darkness comes, only unity survives. We need the Council, and whether you like it or not, you need us. Velsera looked around the chamber. She saw fear, confusion, anger, but also in some faces, hope. Perhaps the humans were right. Perhaps the old exile had been a mistake. What are your terms? She asked. Simple, Nari replied. Humanity claims the void territories, the dark spaces between spiral arms, the regions no one wants because you can't survive there. We'll build there, guard there, and when something comes from the darkness, we'll stand between it and your light. In exchange, you acknowledge our sovereignty. You trade with us. You treat us as equals, not as exiles or threats, and if we refuse, then we leave. Go deeper into the void, and when the darkness comes, you face it alone. We'll survive. We're voidborn now. But you? Nari's eyes glowed brighter. The thing that's approaching will unravel your reality like thread. The architects, who were 1,000,000 times more advanced than you, fled from it. What chance do you have? The vote took 3 days. It wasn't unanimous. Many species still feared humanity. Others resented their power. But in the end, survival won over pride. The Council accepted humanity's terms. Ambassador Nari bowed formally before the Council. The Void Lords accept this agreement. We will return to the darkness. But we'll be watching, and when the time comes, we'll stand with you. Because that's what humanity does. We don't abandon allies, even allies who once abandoned us. As her image faded, Minsuk approached Velsera. What have we done? He asked. We exiled them, destroyed their world, and now we're welcoming them back. Velsera watched the space where Nari had stood. We created monsters to protect us from something worse. History will judge if we were wise or desperate. Perhaps both, Minsuk replied. 2 years had passed since humanity returned from the void. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Void Lord Daeon Park stood at the observation deck of the Eternal Watch, humanity's largest void station, and gazed at the darkness beyond. She was the great-great-granddaughter of Commander Doyen Park, the man who had been exiled all those centuries ago. His defiant spirit lived in her veins. The void territories were humanity's now. Massive stations floated in the darkness between spiral arms. Powered by dark matter reactors that bent physics into new shapes, ships moved through impossible space crewed by void-born humans who could see in dimensions others couldn't imagine. The darkness that once meant death had become home. Counselor Jiho Kwan materialized beside her as a hologram. He was the human representative to the reformed Galactic Council, spending his days in the light while Daeon lived in the shadow. The Council is getting nervous again, Jiho reported. 3 more species tried to send expeditions into the void this month. All failed. They're asking why humans can survive when they can't. Daeon didn't turn from the viewport, because we didn't choose the void. It chose us. The Council exiled us here thinking we'd die. Instead, we evolved. You can't just decide to become voidborn. The darkness has to accept you. They're scared, Jiho said. We have power they can't match. Technology they can't understand. Some are calling for another vote. Another exile. Let them try, Daeon replied calmly. This time we won't leave. She was one of the 5 lords who led humanity now, not through democracy or inherited power, but through capability. The void respected strength, and the 5 were the strongest. They had mastered every aspect of void existence. They could navigate the chaos, communicate with dark matter entities, and manipulate reality itself. An alarm chimed. Commander Sujin An's face appeared on the screen. She led the Void Watch, the ships that monitored the deep darkness beyond the galaxy. Her expression sent ice through Daeon's blood. We have a situation, Sujin said. Readings from beyond the galactic rim. The anomalies we've been tracking for months just activated. All of them. Simultaneously. Daeon was moving before Sujin finished speaking. Show me. The holographic display filled with data. Massive structures older than the universe itself were coming online. They weren't in normal space. They existed in the layers of reality beneath and beyond the physical, but their activation was causing tears in dimensional space. Reality was fraying at the edges. The Unmakers, Daeon whispered. They're here. The architects had left warnings about them in their ancient archives. Beings that existed before the current universe formed. They weren't hostile in any meaningful way. They simply existed on such a different level that their presence unraveled matter and energy. They returned everything to the primordial void state before existence began, not destroying, unmaking. Convene the council, Daeon ordered. All species. Emergency session now. The council chamber filled within hours. Every species sent their representatives, even those who had voted against humanity's return. Fear was a powerful motivator. The holographic displays showed the approaching doom clearly enough that even the most stubborn delegates couldn't deny it. Daeon appeared as a hologram, but unlike normal projections, hers had substance. Void energy given form. She could have appeared physically, but the council species still found fully manifested void lords unsettling. The Unmakers are returning, she began without preamble. The architects called them that because it's what they do. They don't destroy matter. They return it to the state before creation, before the Big Bang, before existence itself. High Counselor Velzera, daughter of the previous counselor, rippled with concern. How do we fight them? We don't, Daeon replied. The architects tried. They had technology 1,000,000 years more advanced than yours. They failed. Fighting the Unmakers is like trying to fight entropy itself. You can't win. You can only delay. Then what do we do? Another delegate demanded. Accept our end. No, we negotiate. The chamber erupted in confusion. Negotiate with forces of nature? With beings that existed before time? Daeon waited for silence. Humanity learned something in the void. We learned to exist in multiple states of reality. We're matter and dark matter. We're 3-dimensional and 7-dimensional. We exist in your reality and in the void simultaneously. We're the bridge. Counselor Jiho stepped forward. The Unmakers aren't invading. They're migrating, fleeing from something even they fear in their native dimensions. They need to pass through our reality to reach another one. Their passage will destroy everything unless we create a path. A path through what? Felsera asked. Through the void, Daeon answered. Through the empty spaces between galaxies. We can create stable corridors using our technology, dimensional highways that let the Unmakers pass without touching the material universe. That's madness, an elder delegate objected. The energy required would be beyond conventional physics, yes, Daeon agreed. But we're not conventional anymore. We have dark matter reactors, void engines that run on impossible energy, and we have partnerships with entities that exist in the spaces between dimensions. Together we can build this. But we need resources, ships, materials, scientists, every species contributing. The debate was fierce. Some species refused to help, claiming humanity was exaggerating the threat. Others wanted proof before committing resources. A few simply didn't believe the Unmakers could be reasoned with. Then the first dimensional tear opened near the outer rim. A council colony world of the Kretar simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Unmade. 60 billion beings returned to non-existence in an instant. The tier was closing, but sensors detected thousands more beginning to open. The vote was unanimous. Survival erased all other concerns. Construction began immediately. It was the largest undertaking in galactic history. Human Void Lords worked alongside Council engineers. Species that had been enemies for millennia collaborated. Void-born humans taught others how to work in impossible spaces. Dark matter entities provided energy beyond measure. They built the voidways, massive dimensional corridors that stretched through the darkness between galaxies, structures that existed in multiple realities at once, stable pathways through unstable space. Daeun led the first expedition to make contact. Her ship approached the largest dimensional tear, where the Unmakers were pushing through. Up close, they were beautiful and terrible. Beings of pure mathematics existing as equations made manifest. Their form defied description because they had no form in conventional sense. She opened communication through quantum channels that void-born humans could access. The response came not in words but in pure understanding. The Unmakers were ancient. They had existed since before the universe inflated from the quantum foam. They had watched reality form, expand, and evolve. But something was coming. Something even older. From the spaces beyond the multiverse. They were fleeing, and our reality was just a path to somewhere safer. Daeun showed them the voidways. Paths through the empty darkness where their passage wouldn't unravel the material universe. In exchange, she asked for knowledge. Understanding of the deeper realities they perceived. The agreement was reached through mathematics and quantum entanglement. The Unmakers would use the voidways. In exchange, they shared their understanding of the fundamental nature of existence. Knowledge that would take species millions of years to comprehend, but which would eventually elevate them to new levels of capability. The passage took a century. Daeun watched it all, her void-born body aging slower than normal humans. She saw the Unmakers flow through the corridors humanity built, like water through channels. Where they passed, they left gifts. Structures of pure mathematics that would power civilization for eons. Knowledge encoded in quantum states that would take millennia to unpack. When the last Unmaker passed through and the dimensional tiers sealed, the galaxy breathed again. 500 years after the exile, Counselor Jiho stood before the Galactic Council. He was old now, kept alive by void technology but still aging. He addressed a chamber full of new faces, species who knew the exile only as history. Our ancestors were exiled for being dangerous, Jiho said, for expanding too fast, for being too aggressive. The Council was right to fear us, but wrong about why. He gestured to the viewing screens showing the void territories. Human stations glowed in the darkness, eternal watchmen standing guard over reality itself. We weren't dangerous because we were violent. We were dangerous because we refused to stop asking what's next. The Council gave us the void, thinking it would be our grave. Instead, it became our crucible. We are the lords of the void not because we conquered it, but because we dared to understand it. He looked around at the delegates. Humans sat among them now. Not just representatives, but full council members, partners, equals. The galaxy is safer now, not because we're peaceful, but because we're watching. The Unmakers were the first test. They won't be the last. Reality is stranger and more dangerous than we imagined. But humanity learned something in the void that the Council had forgotten. Jiho's eyes, still showing traces of void-born enhancement, glowed softly. Survival isn't about staying safe. It's about being too stubborn to die, too curious to hide, too adaptable to break. The Council exiled us as refugees.